The main screen in the Earth Council room went dark. For a moment, there was only silence. The people in the room, representatives from every nation, did not move. They did not speak. They just stared at the blank screen. Then, the noise began. It started as a low rush of whispers. It grew into a wave of shouts and questions in many languages. Papers were dropped. Chairs were pushed back. The calm of the meeting was completely broken. Kim Tae-shik, the military advisor for the Unified Earth Council, stood up. He did not shout. He simply placed his hands flat on the table and leaned forward. His face was hard like stone. The others near him slowly stopped talking. One by one, the rest of the room grew quiet again. All eyes turned to him. "Play it again," Tae-shik said. His voice was low and clear. The technical officer, a young woman with shaking hands, nodded. The main screen lit up once more. The image was not clear. It showed the inside of an alien ship. The shapes were strange, sharp, and did not look like they were made for a human body. In the center of the screen was a creature. It was tall and thin, with skin that looked like gray leather. It had large, black eyes that showed no feeling. It wore a uniform of dark metal. The creature spoke. Its voice was translated by a computer into perfect Korean. The words were polite, but the meaning was ice-cold. "People of the planet Earth," the creature began. "We are the Lorvathi hegemony. Your star system now lies within the boundary of our control. You will surrender your planetary sovereignty and all physical resources. Your species will be assimilated as a client race of the hegemony. You will follow our commands." The creature paused. Its large black eyes seemed to look right through the screen, right into the soul of every person watching. "If you refuse this offer," it continued, "your planet will be obliterated. There will be no negotiation. There will be no second chance. You have 72 of your hours to send your agreement. We will be waiting." The screen went dark again. This time, the silence in the room was heavy, like a thick blanket. The fear was now a real thing they could touch. A man from a large island nation was the first to find his voice. This must be a trick. Some kind of deep space fake video. Our sensors at Pluto, what do they say? Tae-shik looked at a different screen on his table. The data was already there. "It is not a trick," he said. "The object that transmitted this message is real. It is a ship, and it is not alone." He pressed a button. A map of the solar system appeared on the main screen. Near the edge, past the orbit of Neptune, were 7 new icons. They were blinking red. Next to each icon were numbers, readings of size and power. 5 minutes ago, Tae-shik explained, 7 massive objects dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They are holding position here. Our long-range scans show they are warships. Their energy signatures are beyond anything we have. Beyond anything we have even imagined. A woman from a mountainous country stood up. "Our fleet. We have the Earth Defense Fleet. The ships near Mars. Can they intercept?" Tae-shik shook his head slowly. It was a small movement, but it felt like a death sentence to everyone watching. The Earth Defense Fleet has 12 small combat vessels. They are for stopping asteroids and policing our own space. They are like throwing stones at a fortress. It would be no fight. It would be nothing. He let that word hang in the air. Nothing. "Then what do we do?" shouted another representative. "We cannot just give them our planet. We must fight." "Fight with what?" Tae-shik asked, his voice rising for the first time. "Our strongest missiles would be like fireflies to them. We would be wasting lives for no reason. We would only give them an excuse to start the obliteration early." The room broke into arguing again. Some people said they must fight to the end. Others said they must surrender to save lives. The noise was loud and full of panic. High above the Earth, on a small ship very far away, a different kind of meeting was happening. Captain Lee Jun of the KSV Morning Star watched the alien message on his own screen. His ship was small, built for long trips to look at distant rocks and ice. It had one small engine and a few scientific tools. It had no weapons at all. His crew was small. The person next to him was Dr. Park Ji-hai. She was the expert for talking to new things they found in space. Right now, her face was pale, but her eyes were focused on the alien's words. They spoke in Korean, June, she said quietly, using his first name as she often did when they were alone. Not English, not Mandarin, Korean, to the main station in Seoul. How did they know to do that? How is their translation so perfect? June rubbed his face. He was tired. They had been out in the dark for 6 months. They were supposed to be going home in a week. Now home was in terrible danger. Maybe they listened to our broadcasts. Radio, television. It is more than that, Ji-hai insisted. She played a part of the message again. She pointed to a word on her screen. This term, planetary sovereignty. It is a very specific legal term. It is not a common word. It is a word from our government documents. How did they get our government documents? June did not have an answer. A beep came from his chair. A new message was coming from Earth Command. It was for him. He opened it. The orders were short and direct. Captain Lee, do not return to Earth. Do not approach the alien vessels. Your mission is changed. Use the stealth systems on the Morning Star. Move to these coordinates. Observe the alien armada. Watch everything. Look for any weakness. Report anything you find. You are the only ship in position to do this. Good luck. June read the orders twice. He showed the screen to Ji-hai. She read it and looked at him, her eyes wide. They want us to spy on them? She whispered. They want us to look for a way to save Earth. June corrected her, but his voice was flat. He looked at the image of the alien ship on his screen. It was huge and terrifying. His own ship was a tiny piece of dust in comparison. He felt a heavy weight settle in his stomach. He turned to his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his command. He took a deep breath. Set a new course, he said. His voice was stronger than he felt. Use all the stealth power we have. We are not going home. We are going to watch the monsters. The inside of the Morning Star was quiet. The usual sounds were still there. The low hum of the air system, the soft beeps from the computers. But the people were silent. They spoke only when they had to, in low voices. It felt like they were in a library or a place of worship. They were hiding, and everyone knew it. Captain Lee Jun watched the main screen. It showed the dark of space. In the distance, he could see a small group of bright points. They were not stars. They were the lights from the Lorvathi ships. Even from this far away, they looked huge and dangerous. The Morning Star was a small, dark rock floating in the shadow of a large asteroid. Their stealth systems were on full power. They were using very little energy. They were trying to be invisible. Dr. Park Ji-hai sat at her communication station. Her screens were filled with lines of strange symbols and numbers. It was the electronic noise from the alien armada. She was not trying to talk to them. She was only listening. She wore headphones, and her face was tight with concentration. Anything new? June asked, walking over to her. He kept his voice soft. Ji-hai shook her head slowly. Not yet. It is the same patterns. Military signals. Status reports. They are very disciplined. Their communications are short. There is no wasted word. No emotion. She took off her headphones. It is like listening to a very complex machine. A very cold machine. June looked at the data on her screen. It meant nothing to him. It was just shapes and numbers. And their language? You understand it now? I understand the structure, Ji-hai said. She pointed to a string of symbols. This is a power level report. This is a navigation check. The computer is learning their basic grammar. But the why is missing. Why this word? Why this order? It is all logic. No art. She leaned back in her chair. She looked tired. Captain, there is something strange. Their translation software, the one they used to speak to us in Korean. It is too good. It is perfect. It used words and phrases that are not in common broadcasts. It used terms from old scientific papers, from historical documents that are only in digital archives. How did they get those? June thought about this. Maybe they have very good computers. They can scan and learn fast. Maybe, Jihai said, but she did not sound convinced. It feels like they did not just arrive and start listening. Feels like they have been studying us for a long time, from far away. This idea sent a chill down June's spine. It was one thing to be invaded by strangers. It was another thing to be invaded by strangers who already knew all your secrets. A soft alarm chimed on Jihai's console. A light began to blink blue. She turned back quickly and put her headphones on. A new signal, she said. It is different. It is not on their main military channel. It is a low-power data stream. It is being sent from one of their big ships to a smaller one. Can you hear what it is? June asked. It is not sound. It is a data packet. A file. Her fingers flew over the controls. The Morning Star's computers were very good at listening. They could catch pieces of information floating in space. They were like digital fishermen. A progress bar filled on her screen. The file was being captured. It was not encrypted. That was the strangest part. The Lorvathi did not bother to lock this file. Got it, Jihai whispered. She opened the file. On her screen, a video began to play. The quality was poor and jumpy. It showed a black and white image. It was a diagram of the solar system. Simple lines and circles. Then, a series of numbers appeared. June stared. What is that? It looks very old. Jihai's eyes went wide. It is old, she breathed. It is very, very old. This is data from Voyager 2. The old probe? The one from the 20th century. Yes, Jihai said, her voice filled with wonder. This is the telemetry data, the information it sent back about the planets. And this, she said as the video changed, this is from the golden record. The screen now showed simple pictures. A man and a woman. Diagrams of human biology. Mathematical formulas. Then, a waveform appeared for sound. Jihai played it. A crackly, ancient sound came from the speakers. It was a greeting in a human language. Then another, and another. Words of peace from a planet that no longer existed in that same way. The two of them watched, stunned, as the aliens studied a message of hello from 100 years ago. The Lorvathi ship was analyzing it, breaking it down, looking at every detail. Why? June finally asked. They have our planet right there. They have all our modern broadcasts, our news, our entertainment, our fights. Why are they looking at this old piece of history? Jihai paused the playback. She looked at the symbols next to the file. The Lorvathi had attached notes. She pointed to a repeating set of glyphs. The computer is starting to translate their notes. This word, it appears many times. The closest meaning is baseline, or origin point. She turned to look at June, a new idea forming in her eyes. They are not just looking at our present. They are comparing it to our past. They want to see the difference. They want to see how we have changed from the people who sent this friendly greeting into the dark. June looked back at the main screen, at the terrifying warships hanging in the dark. They held the power to destroy worlds. And yet, they were spending time looking at pictures from a time when humans had just learned to fly. What are they looking for? He wondered out loud. I do not know, Jihai said softly, staring at the old images. But they are searching for something. And they are searching for it in our past. Not in our weapons. In our... Hello. The morning star floated in the silence. Around them, the vast alien machines waited. And on a small screen, a century-old message of hope played on a loop, studied by black, unfeeling eyes. The morning star was a pocket of quiet in the vast, watching dark. Time moved slowly. The crew worked in shifts, but no one slept well. They ate without tasting their food. They watched the screens until their eyes burned. The Lorvathi Armada was a silent, unmoving threat on their main viewer. It was a strange kind of torture, to watch the end of everything and be unable to do anything but watch. Dr. Park Jihai had not left her station for 10 hours. Her eyes were red, but she did not look away from her screens. She had broken the alien data stream into smaller pieces. She was like an archaeologist digging through digital layers, but she was digging in real time, as the fate of her world ticked away. Captain Lee Jun brought her a cup of tea. He placed it carefully beside her hand. She did not notice at first. "Ji-hai," he said softly. "You must rest. The computer can watch." She blinked slowly, as if waking up. She looked at the tea, then at him. "I cannot rest, June. There is a pattern here. I can almost see it." She took the tea and drank. Her hands were cold. "What kind of pattern?" June asked. He pulled another chair close. He looked at her screens. They were filled with side-by-side comparisons. On one side, the old Voyager data. On the other, snippets of modern human media the Lorvathi had also captured: news broadcasts, entertainment videos, public network data. "It is not about our technology," she said, pointing. "Look." They marked the Voyager diagrams of the hydrogen atom. Basic. Then they pulled modern physics papers. Advanced. They compared them. They noted the rate of conceptual expansion. "They are measuring how fast we learn." June frowned. "That makes sense for a conqueror. To know how quickly we could become a threat." "Maybe," Ji-hai said. "But then look at this." She called up another set of files. "Here." They took the sound greetings from the golden record. "Hello" in many languages. Then they took this. She played a modern audio file. It was a recording of a heated argument from a Earth Council broadcast. People were shouting over each other. "The notes here," Ji-hai continued, highlighting the Lorvathi glyphs, say, "comparative analysis of social cohesion under stress." They are not just listening to the words. They are listening to the tone, the anger, the division. A cold feeling settled in June's stomach. They are studying how we fight each other. "Yes. And this," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "This is what I do not understand." She brought up a new file. It was video, but not from Voyager. It was much older, grainier. It showed black and white footage of a city street. People were marching. They were holding signs. The signs were in an old style of Korean writing. The people looked angry, but also determined. "Where is this from?" June asked, leaning closer. "It is an archival newsreel from the late 20th century. It was in a forgotten public database. It is not famous. It is just a moment." She played the Lorvathi notes alongside it. The translation was rough, but clear. The note said, "Case study. Defiant social organization in pre-spaceflight culture. Objective, survival of ideal. Cost to individuals, high. Outcome, delayed structural change." "They are not looking at our kings and presidents," Ji-hai said, her voice trembling with a strange energy. "They are looking at our protests, our strikes, our sit-ins. They have files on our art movements that challenged power. They have analyzed folk songs of resistance from 5 different continents." June stood up, pacing the small space behind her chair. "Why? Why does that matter to them? They have ships that can crack a planet. What does a folk song matter?" "That is the question," Ji-hai said, turning to face him. I think they are afraid of it. Afraid of a song? Not the song itself," she said, shaking her head. She was trying to fit the pieces together in her mind. "They are afraid of what it represents. A species that, when pushed, does not just break or surrender. A species that makes art about its pain. That sings when it is sad. That makes jokes when it is scared. That remembers every wrong, every injustice, and teaches it to its children. They are auditing our spirit, June. And they are trying to put a number on it. They are trying to calculate the cost of breaking it." The idea seemed too big, too strange. June looked back at the main screen at the clean, sharp lines of the Lorvathi warships. They were the picture of logic and power. They were not built by people who sang sad songs. They were built by people who followed orders. A new alert flashed silently on Ji-hai's console. A data packet, much larger than the others, was being sent from the lead Lorvathi ship. It was addressed to all other ships in the Armada. It was marked with a high-priority flag, but it was, once again, not encrypted. "Another one," she said, her fingers already moving. "A general order." She captured it and opened it. It was not a battle plan. It was a summary document. A report. At the top was Earth's name. Below were categories: technological assimilation timeline, acceptable; resource integration potential, high; biological compliance, projected; and then a final category covered in dense notes and references: psychological and cultural subjugation cost, extreme; probability of sustained, asymmetric noncompliance, 99.8%. Note: client species shows persistent defiant memory and loss-averse social bonding. Pacification would require generational scale erasure of core identity. Resource drain, catastrophic. June read the words. He read them again. The translation was not perfect, but the meaning was terrifyingly clear. They are not just deciding if they can beat us, Jihai whispered, staring at the final line. They are deciding if we are worth the trouble. They are deciding if they can hold us. On the screen, the cold logic of the Lorvathi had delivered its verdict. Earth was not a prize. It was a problem that would fight back in ways they could not simply shoot. A problem that would remember and teach and resist long after the bombs had stopped falling. In the quiet of the ship, the hum of the systems was the only sound. The terrifying warships were still there. The clock was still ticking. But for the first time, June felt a flicker of something other than dread. It was a thin, wild thread of hope. They were not just being judged on their strength. They were being judged on their stubbornness. The clock was the loudest thing on the bridge. It counted down in the corner of every screen. 48 hours remained. On Earth, people were saying goodbye. They were holding their families. They were waiting for the end. The hope from the strange report on the Morning Star had not been shared. It was too fragile, too strange. Earth Command did not understand it. How could stubbornness be a weapon? Captain Lee Jun watched the clock. He felt useless. He was a captain with no ship to command into battle. He was a man with no tool but a listening device. Dr. Park Ji-hai sat beside him. She had not slept. Her mind was a storm. They are still looking, she said, her voice rough. She pointed to her screen. They are going deeper. Not into our public data. Into the cracks. What do you mean, the cracks? June asked. The things we do not broadcast to the stars, Ji-hai said. She pulled up examples. Old radio shows that were only local. Community theater recordings. Children's drawings scanned into school servers. Handwritten poetry from digital archives that nobody visits. Graffiti art from city walls, photographed and forgotten. She showed him one. It was a picture of a brick wall. Someone had painted a large, colorful bird on it. Under the bird were words in Spanish. On Valamis. We still fly. The Lorvathi found this, Ji-hai said. They analyzed the paint. They dated the photo. They translated the words. They spent processing power on a piece of street art from 15 years ago in a city that does not exist anymore. It was destroyed in an earthquake. June looked at the bright bird on the screen. It was so human, so pointless and so full of point. Why? Was all he could ask. I think I was wrong before, Ji-hai said. She leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment. It is not just an audit. It is a diagnosis. They are trying to find the source of the defiant memory. They think if they can find where it comes from, they can cut it out. They can make us quiet, manageable. She opened her eyes and looked at him. There was a fire in them now. It was not the fire of hope, but of anger. They want to find the root of our noise and pull it out, but they cannot find it. It is everywhere. It is in the graffiti. It is in the folk song. It is in the protest chant. It is in the joke a father tells his son. It has no root. It is the whole plant. June understood now. The Lorvathi were engineers of a terrible kind. They wanted a clean, logical universe. Humanity was messy. Humanity was irrational. Humanity painted birds on walls about to fall down. It did not make sense. And because it did not make sense, they could not build a plan to control it. Then we are already dead, June said quietly. If they decide we are too messy to control, they will choose obliteration. It is the clean option, the logical option. Jihai shook her head slowly.
No.
Look at their notes. They are not angry. They are frustrated, confused. Look at this phrase from their latest analysis. She highlighted a line of text. The translation read, "Recurring theme of meaning creation in perceived hopeless scenarios. Illogical, resource-intensive. Recommend further study." They do not understand why we do it, Jihai said, but they are fascinated by it. It is a puzzle their logic cannot solve. A waste of energy that keeps happening. An idea began to form in June's mind. It was a desperate, crazy idea. It came from watching Jihai work. It came from looking at the picture of the bird. "What if," he said slowly, "we gave them more?" "More what?" Jihai asked. "More of what they are studying," June said. He stood up and started to pace. "They are looking at pieces, fragments they stole from our past. What if we gave them a message? Not a plea, not a threat, a sample, a concentrated sample of the very thing they do not understand." "You want to talk to them?" Jihai said, shocked. "The orders are to observe only. Any transmission will give away our position. They will destroy us in a second." "Not if the message is the right kind of message," June said. He stopped pacing and looked at her. "We do not send words they can argue with. We do not send logic. We send the evidence. We send the thing that confuses them. We send the bird on the wall." Jihai stared at him. The fear in her eyes mixed with a dawning, terrifying understanding. "We use their own study against them." "Yes," June said. "We hold up a mirror. We show them what they are so afraid of. Not our weapons. Our humanity. All of it. The good and the bad. The brave and the stubborn. The loving and the angry. We give them the full picture they have been trying to build. It could be the thing that makes them pull the trigger," Jihai whispered. "If they see it as a final, deliberate act of defiance, they might decide to end it now." Or, June said, "It could be the thing that finally makes them see the true cost. Not in their ships, but in their peace. If they have to spend generations fighting our ghosts in our own children's minds, is our planet worth it?" The clock ticked. 39 hours. Jihai looked at her screens. She looked at the Lorvathi data, the cold analysis of human joy and pain. She looked at the picture of the bird. "Aún volamos." "We have no weapons," she said finally, her voice firm. "We have only our story. Maybe it is the only weapon they cannot defend against." June nodded. He went to the main comm station. He opened a channel to Earth Command. He knew they would say no. They would call it madness. They would order him to stay hidden. He recorded a short message anyway. He explained his idea. He asked for permission. The reply came back faster than he expected. It was from Commander Kim Tae-shik himself. The message was short. "Captain Lee, request denied. Your orders stand. Observe only. Do not reveal your position. Earth Command is pursuing diplomatic solutions." June read it. Jihai read it over his shoulder. "Diplomatic solutions," she said with a sad laugh. "What diplomacy? They have not spoken to us since the first message." June looked at the denial on the screen. He looked at the countdown. He looked at Jihai's face, pale and tired and full of a fierce light. He deleted Earth Command's message. "Prepare the transmission array," he said quietly. "June." "They said no," Jihai said, but she was already turning to her console. "I know," Captain Lee June said, "but I am here, and I am not doing this for command. I am doing this for the man who painted that bird. Prepare the array. We are going to send them a message they cannot translate. We are going to send them a piece of our soul." Silence filled the bridge of the Morning Star. It was a thick, heavy silence. Captain Lee June had just given an order that could end them. He had refused a direct command from Earth. Dr. Park Ji-hai looked at him for a long moment. Then, she simply nodded. She turned to her station. Her hands began to move over the controls. "The transmission array is cold," she said, her voice all business now. "Bringing it online will create a small energy spike. The Lorvathi will likely see it. How long do we have after we start?" June asked. Maybe 2 minutes, maybe less. They will know where the signal came from. They will investigate. Then we need to say everything in 1 minute, June said. He moved to stand behind her. What do we send? We cannot just send random pictures. It must tell a story they will understand. Jihai's mind was racing. The Lorvathi valued logic. They understood patterns. The message had to be a pattern, but a human pattern. A story of persistence. Not a story of victory, but a story of continuing. We do not send our greatest achievements, she said, thinking out loud. We do not send our tallest buildings or our fastest ships. They have those. We send the moments between the big moments. The quiet moments of being human. Show me, June said. Jihai began to pull files from the ship's cultural archive. It was a small library, meant for the crew's personal use. It had music, films, art, books. She searched not for the famous things, but for the true things. This, she said, pulling up a black and white video. It was very old. It showed a traditional Korean drummer, a pungmul player. His face was a mask of concentration. Sweat flew from his brow as his hands became a blur on the drum. The sound was chaotic, powerful, and deeply rhythmic. It was not a gentle sound. It was the sound of a heart beating in a storm. We start with this, she said. The relentless rhythm. No words, just persistence. Next, she found a still image. It was a simple photograph from a history archive. A young woman, a student, was standing alone in a wide street. She was facing a line of large, dark vehicles. She held nothing in her hands. She was just standing there. Her face was not angry. It was calm, resolved. Defiance without violence, Jihai whispered. They will not understand it. It will consume their analysis. She added a clip of an artisan's hands. The video was slow and close. The hands were old and covered in fine white clay dust. They were carefully turning a pot on a wheel. The pot was not perfect. The hands smoothed a rough spot, again and again with infinite patience. It was the work of a lifetime, condensed into 30 seconds. Creation, Jihai said. The act of making something from nothing, again and again. She added more. A clip of firefighters, covered in ash, passing a single bottle of water between them. A video of 2 old men in a park, laughing over a game of chess, while the world moved around them. A recording of a lullaby, a mother's voice singing a simple, ancient tune to a sleeping child. This is not a message of peace, June observed, watching the sequence form. It is a message of life. Stubborn, everyday life. Exactly, Jihai said. Her fingers flew, stitching the pieces together into one tight 1-minute data package. We are not telling them we are strong. We are showing them we are here. In all our noise and our quiet. In our fear and our comfort. We are showing them the thing they would have to erase. And we are showing them it is in everything. She finished the sequence. The final image was not from Earth. It was from the Morning Star's own external camera. It was a view of the Earth, seen from the ship's departure months ago. A beautiful, blue-white marble, hanging in the black. It was home. We end with what they are threatening, June said softly. Not with a threat of our own. The package was ready. A single minute of human experience. No translation. No explanation. Just the raw data of existence. The array is ready, Jihai said. Her hand hovered over the final command key. We are targeting the exact frequency and encryption pattern they used for their ultimatum. We are sending it right back to the lead ship. June took a deep breath. He looked at the main screen. The Lorvathi ships hung in the dark, silent and deadly. He thought of Earth. He thought of his family in Busan. He thought of the man who painted the bird on the crumbling wall. Send it, he said. Jihai pressed the key. A low hum filled the bridge as power surged to the communications array. On the sensor screen, a tiny, bright spike of energy blossomed from their ship, a firefly flashing in the night. The minute-long package raced across the void at the speed of light. Signal away, Jihai said. She watched her sensors. And they saw the spike. The lead ship is adjusting orientation. Scanning our sector. 2 smaller ships are detaching. They are moving. On an intercept course. The clock was no longer counting down to Earth's deadline. It was now counting down to their own. Time? June asked, his voice calm. At their speed, 4 minutes until they are in weapons range, Jihai reported. June sat down in his captain's chair. He did not try to run. The Morning Star was not built for running. He watched the 2 red icons move away from the Lorvathi Armada and begin the short, fatal journey towards his little ship. All stop, he said. Kill all non-essential systems. Redirect all power to the forward shields. Just in case. The crew worked quickly. The ship grew quieter. The main lights dimmed. Only the screens glowed, showing the approaching vessels. They had sent their message. There was nothing left to do but wait and see what answer the universe would send back. On Earth, the final hours were a kind of agony. People gathered in homes, in shelters, in places of worship. There was little left to say. Commander Kim Tae-shik stood in the silent operations center. The main screen showed the Lorvathi Armada. It was unchanged. The clock in the corner read 2 minutes and 17 seconds. 2 minutes and 17 seconds. His communication officer turned to him, face pale. Sir, we just detected a microtransmission burst. From the Oort cloud. From the Morning Star's last known position. Tae-shik's heart sank. Lee Jun, he muttered. The fool had done it. He had revealed himself. Is there any signal from the Lorvathi? Any reaction? Nothing, sir. The Armada status is unchanged. Tae-shik watched the clock. 1 minute. 1 minute. He thought of Captain Lee, out there in the dark, now certainly dead. A waste. A brave, stupid waste. .00:00:30. The room held its breath. .00:00:10. The clock hit 0 at a soft, collective gasp moved through the room. Tae-shik's hands clenched into fists on the console. This was it. The blinding flash. The end of everything. Nothing happened. The screen showed the same 7 ships. Their energy signatures did not spike. Their weapons did not fire. They simply hung in the void, dark and silent. Report. Tae-shik Barkid. Sensors show no change. No weapon activation. No energy buildup. The sensor operator called out, confusion in his voice. Are they waiting for a formal surrender? Negative, sir. We have received no further communications at all. They are inert. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 5. The Lorvathi Armada was a still picture on the screen. The tension in the room began to twist into something else. A mad, impossible confusion. In the dark near the asteroid, the 2 Lorvathi fighter ships closed in on the Morning Star. Captain Lee Jun watched them approach on the screen. They were sleek and sharp like knives. His ship's weak shields were at full power, a pathetic bubble against what was coming. 1 minute to intercept, Jihai said, her voice steady. She was watching her own screen, the one linked to the deep space listening array. It was still pointed at the main Lorvathi command ship. The fighters were almost upon them. June could see the details now, the strange angles, the dark metal. Suddenly, Jihai sat up straight. June, the command ship. It's broadcasting a new signal. A wideband priority signal. To all ships. Is it a fire order? June asked, not taking his eyes off the approaching fighters. No, it's not. The pattern is different. It's a recall. On the screen, the 2 fighter ships, now so close they filled the view, shuddered. Their smooth movement broke. They stopped their advance. For a second, they seemed to hang there as if confused. Then, in perfect unison, they turned. Their engines flared, and they shot back the way they had come, speeding towards the main armada. June blinked. What just happened? I don't know, Jihai whispered. But look. On the main viewer, the entire Lorvathi Armada was beginning to move. It was not an attack formation. It was a retrieval. The smaller ships were moving back to the larger ones. The energy signatures of the massive vessels were shifting, building not for attack, but for a different kind of power. They're spooling their faster-than-light drives, Jihai said, disbelief coloring every word. They're preparing for a jump. They're leaving. It was impossible. It made no sense. June watched, stunned, as the cold, logical machines of the Lorvathi hegemony performed a series of precise, tactical maneuvers. But the tactic was not advancement. It was retreat. The ships formed up into a tight cluster. Space behind them began to distort, shimmering with immense energy. There's no weapon lock on Earth, Jihai confirmed, reading the data. There's no scan on us. They are ignoring everything. They are just going. With a silent flash that bent the light from distant stars, the entire Lorvathi armada vanished. One moment, 7 terrifying shapes blotted out the stars. The next moment, there was only empty space. The bridge of the Morning Star was utterly silent. The hum of their own systems sounded loud again. The threat was just gone. On Earth. The silence in the operations center was broken by a choked sound. Someone was crying. Commander Kim Tae-shik stared at the empty sector of space on the screen. The sensors confirmed it. The Lorvathi were gone. Not just hiding. Their faster-than-light trails were clear. They had jumped out of the solar system entirely. "Get me the Morning Star," Tae-shik said, his voice rough. "Now." The channel crackled to life. "Earth Command. This is Captain Lee Jun of the KSV Morning Star." He sounded tired and deeply confused. "Lee Jun," Tae-shik said. "Report. What did you do?" There was a long pause. "We sent them a message, Commander." "What message? What did you say?" Another pause. June looked at Jihai. She gave him a small, weary shake of her head. "They did not truly know." "We didn't say anything, sir," June finally replied. "We just showed them who we are. And they decided they didn't want the fight." Tae-shik looked around the room at the faces of his staff. They were faces wet with tears of relief, but also faces filled with a profound, unanswerable question. The most powerful threat humanity had ever faced had come to their door, issued an ultimatum, and then, at the last second, had simply turned around and left. No battle. No diplomacy. No surrender. Just a message and a silent, fearful withdrawal. The danger was over, but the mystery had just begun. The blue of the ocean was calm. Captain Lee Jun watched it from his small balcony. His home in Busan felt strange now. It was too quiet. There were no humming ship systems. No alert sounds. Only the cry of seagulls and the distant sound of traffic. He held a cup of tea, but it had gone cold. Behind him, the door slid open. Dr. Park Ji-hye stepped out. She held her own cup. They had been back on Earth for a month. They were heroes, but it was a quiet kind of fame. No one knew what to call what they had done. They had not won a battle. They had not even fought. They had just shown a slideshow, and an empire had run away. The world was celebrating, but the celebration was confused. People were happy to be alive, but they felt uneasy. They had looked into the darkness and seen a monster. Then the monster had looked back, flinched, and disappeared. It did not feel like a victory. It felt like a strange, cosmic misunderstanding. "Any more thoughts from the analysts?" June asked. Not turning from the sea, Jihai came to stand beside him. "The same. They have gone over our transmission 1,000,000 times. They have studied every frame of the drummer, the potter, the student. They call it cultural packet theta. They write long papers about its symbolic resonance. They miss the point completely." "What is the point?" June asked, finally looking at her. "That there is no point," Jihai said simply. "That was the message. We were not sending an argument. We were sending a fact. The fact of us." The Lorvathi spent weeks trying to analyze that fact, to break it down into parts they could understand and control. "Our packet was the final proof that you cannot break it down. The whole is too whole." They were silent for a while. The sun was warm on their faces. "I keep thinking about their report," June said. "The one you translated. Probability of sustained asymmetric non-compliance. They did not see us as enemies. They saw us as a problem that would never end.
Yehia nodded.
Yes, think of their society. From everything we saw, it was about order. Absolute, clean order. They saw a species that finds order boring. A species that, when put in a neat box, will immediately start drawing on the walls. A species that will turn a prison into a choir and a weapon into a tool for art. To defeat us militarily was easy for them. But to make us stop being us? That was a task with no end. It would have been a war in every home, every school, every mind. Forever. She sipped her tea. They are conquerors. They want resources, obedience, quiet. We offer resources. We would never offer obedience or quiet. We are too noisy inside. So they did the logical thing. They found a conflict with an unacceptable cost, and they withdrew. They were not scared of our guns. They were scared of our endless, pointless, beautiful noise. A gentle breeze came off the water. Down on the street, June could see life continuing. A man was selling fish from a cart. A group of schoolchildren walked by in neat lines. An old woman was carefully painting the wooden frame of her shop window, making it bright blue that he saw it all now with new eyes. Every small act was a little defiance against the nothingness of the universe. A claim that life mattered. The Lorvathi, in their perfect, silent ships, had no answer for that claim. They could only break it, and breaking it would have left them with nothing but a broken, empty rock. They did not give us mercy, June said. They made a tactical retreat. They left because we were not worth the trouble. That's right, Jihai said, a small smile on her face. Our strength was not in being powerful. It was in being too much trouble. Our history is a history of trouble. Our art is trouble. Our love is trouble. It is messy and it does not stop. They threatened us with oblivion, and we answered by showing them we would probably make songs about oblivion. And they had no idea what to do with that. June finally laughed. It was a short, quiet sound. He put his cold tea down on the railing. He looked at the people below, living their messy, noisy, stubborn lives. They had no idea they were soldiers in a war that had been won by a lullaby and a painted bird, that he was not a hero. He was just a man who had pushed a button. The real message had been sent centuries ago, by everyone who ever chose to create instead of destroy, to stand instead of kneel, to hope when hope was foolish. The Lorvathi had received that message, woven into the fabric of a simple data packet. They had scanned it, analyzed it, and calculated the future. They had seen an eternal, unwinnable war against the human spirit. And they had been wise enough to be afraid.